We are kicking off Speed Readings 2.0 on August 8th, and if you'd like to view all 4 sessions, August 8th, 14th, 17th, or 20th, you can now get the all-access live viewing pass on funastrology.com. This time, we're opening the door to all 4 sessions, but live only. I learned so much from Robert last time, and I know you will too. So if you'd like to get links to all 4 sessions, it's only $19.97. That is an incredible bargain. Go to funastrology.com to get yours now. Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast. Thomas Miller, Robert Glasscock. You know, we love getting listener questions and comments, but sometimes they come in and they might have a little edge to them. We get them from all places, and this is one that Robert spotted on Apple Podcast. A person gave us a really low ranking on the podcast and said this. Let me just read it to you. Listened to the episode about why Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, since it seems to be something overlooked in every resource I've come across, and this is the same. Robert just mentions how Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces have new ruling planets due to the discovery of the outer planets, and then talks about how special he is with his outer planets and inner planet placements, but doesn't answer the question of why Aquarius is associated with Saturn at all, and gave us a low star ranking. So I know you wanted to bring this up and address it.
Well, I really loved the comment and glad that he posted it. But I was appalled because it reminded me over the last 2 years of how many serious students of astrology don't know that. My immediate question, and we have covered this in other podcasts, would be, what the heck does he think did rule Scorpio and Aquarius and Pisces before the discovery of Uranus and Neptune and Pluto? Uranus wasn't discovered until 1741 or something with the telescope. Pluto wasn't discovered until 1930. So what does he think ruled Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces? Every book that I ever read from the beginning of my studies in 1965 pointed out the Chaldean rulerships, the old rulerships we could only see out to Saturn. And since the beginning of astrology, Saturn has ruled Aquarius as well as Capricorn. And since the beginning of astrology, Jupiter has ruled Pisces as well as Sagittarius. And since the beginning of astrology, Mars has ruled Scorpio as well as Pluto. So a comment like this coming from sheer ignorance is not only irritating, but it's a major, major problem with students today. When you and I were coming up, we didn't have the internet. We had to buy books. The internet today makes anybody an instant publisher. Anybody can put anything up online, and it all looks the same. It's online, it's in text format, it looks like a book. But nobody vets it. You don't know whether Star Princess is a valid astrologer, as she's, read a book for 5 minutes and now she has a website. Unless you have some personal experience, a background that gives you critical thinking to be appraising and apprising what you're reading online. Anybody can say anything. My favorite pet peeve has always been throughout my practice, astrologers who advertise themselves as internationally famous astrologers so-and-so. And I have to laugh. If you are truly internationally famous, you don't have to tell us. We already know who you are. It's like saying internationally known actress Meryl Streep. Nobody does that. The second thing is how many clients of mine, again, serious astrologers who have never heard of converse progressions or converse solar arcs. They don't know what they are.
Hey, I use Astro Gold, as you know, and they are owned by Fire, the big Windows program. Same developers. I'm trying to get them to put that in Astro Gold, and they won't even recognize it. It's frustrating. If anybody has connections with Astro Gold, please put converse solar arcs and progressions in.
My software from Cosmic Patterns uses it. But this was in the first book that I ever read, The A to Z Horoscope Maker and Delineator. And that book originally was written in 1928, revised over these years. Every book. This guy says it's been in none of the sources he's ever read. Well, he hasn't read enough, because it's absolutely been around for thousands of years, this knowledge about the Chaldean rulerships of the planets. Also for the thousands of years, converse and solar and forward progressions and solar arcs. It's amazing to me and very sad that astrologers today are not familiar with those things, and very sad that your solar fire doesn't even offer.
No, Solar Fire does. Astro Gold doesn't.
Oh, Astro Gold. Okay.
Yeah, Solar Fire, it's a click box, just like on your program on Kepler.
Yeah.
And I've said, you guys just go to Solar Fire and bring that over to Astro Gold. Nothing.
And see, this is what I mean, Thomas. You've got a program that you paid hundreds of dollars for that doesn't offer it. They don't put it in there because they don't know about it.
Yeah, they don't value
but
it.
But they have a great reputation. They've been in business for years, and everybody thinks, oh, they're accurate. Well, they're not. But you don't have, unless you have studied this stuff, you don't know that they don't know what they're doing.
You know where a lot of people
let me just finish this thought, though. The other thing about books, back in the day when I started, we had to, there were no computers. We did not even have hand calculators. You had to physically calculate the chart. You had to have several books, which I carried around in a briefcase, the tables of houses, time changes in the United States, time changes in the world, on and on and on, ephemerides for all these different years. You had blank horoscope wheels, which you had to hand draw. It took me about an hour to set up a horoscope. Then when hand calculators came out, I was able to set up a horoscope in 10 minutes, an accurate one, and I was so proud. But in doing that, you are getting a hand, eye, mind, body coordination and spirit coordination that absolutely links you biochemically and electromagnetically with that horoscope. You don't get that when you have 2 seconds, you've got a horoscope online that you can print out. I still manually draw the aspect lines because I like to, because manually drawing all those aspect lines forces me to look at that chart for a while and make sure I don't miss anything. And it physically, as well as mentally and spiritually, gets me into the horoscope. But today, with people learning all of this online, any Tom, Dick, or Harriet can post anything they like to online, and you don't know. Many students don't know whether it's accurate or not. And back in the day when you had to buy books, they weren't cheap. You had to make money and invest in the book to buy the book. And then you have a physical book that you could highlight and make notes in the margin. It became yours. Today, that doesn't exist. A lot of this stuff is free, which means it's valueless. Unless you've got a basis to know what you're looking at, whether it's true or not. That's my rant.
A lot of people are getting astrology knowledge now from TikTok. I'm serious. But I would like to do this. Let's answer this person's question. Why Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. In fact, Saturn is the only ruling planet that has 2 adjoining signs, because obviously it's the only ruler of Capricorn, and it is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, the Chaldean ruler. Why?
I don't know that we have time to go into all that. You have to, if you're going to do that, you have to ask, why is it that Jupiter co-rules Sagittarius and Pisces? What I will say is that, for example, in Mark Edmund Jones's book on horary astrology, he makes very clear you are to use the Chaldean rulers of the signs first. If you want to use Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto for the co-rulers of their respective signs, then you have to be able to justify it within the context of the horary question. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are collective planets. They're not really visible to the naked eye. Now, technically, Uranus is visible to the naked eye, barely, and you have to know where to look.
I've seen it.
All right. But in the old days, it really was not. So that's why the planets out to Saturn, through Saturn, are called the personal planets. The planets beyond Saturn are called the outer planets or the collective planets. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are only perceptible internally to people who have personal planets aspecting them. If you don't have a personal planet or point, the midheavenly ascendant, closely aspecting one of the outer planets, then those outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, absolutely will tend to act in very fatalistic ways in your life, according to the houses they rule and the houses that they're placed in. If you have a personal planet that aspects Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, then you have a personal apprehension of those planets. I have my sun conjunct Neptune trine Uranus. I have Pluto sextile my sun, trine my moon. I have direct connections with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in some wonderful ways. Many people do not, but those are collective planets. They apply to generations of people.
Those are some of Robert's thoughts on this, and we agreed afterwards that I would kind of take the wheel here and finish a few things up because I wanted to go back to this question that I think was actually a pretty good question. Why is it that we have two signs with the same planet back to back? And he said he couldn't find information on it anywhere, so that's why you come to the Old Soul, New Soul podcast, because by golly, we'll dig it out for you. Well, it comes into several things, but it all goes back to the original Chaldean system, let's say, of rulership, and as far as they could see, Saturn was the farthest planet out. That's where it stopped. So you had 7 planets and 12 signs. So there was quite a bit of doubling up. And another important factor that we don't bring in as much, but the Hellenistic students and those who practice that style of astrology, you know about the word sect. And what that is whether it's a daytime chart or a nighttime chart. And that's simply determined by, was the sun 1 degree, 1 minute north or above the ascendant point? That's a daytime chart. And then flip that 180 degrees, the descendant point of sunset. If it's 1 minute or 1 degree past that, that's a nighttime chart. And anything, of course, between there and daylight is considered a nighttime chart. And anything from sunrise to sunset is considered a daytime chart. That also factored in as they were doing the balancing out of the various signs and planets. So the research I found on this was that it was mostly an effort of the Chaldeans to balance out the system, not only of the attributes of the signs and the planets, but also even the elements and qualities. So, for example, we have Saturn assigned to Capricorn. Well, that's an earth element and is a cardinal quality. Then when it was assigned to Aquarius, that's an air element and is a fixed quality. So Saturn in Capricorn as Earth cardinal, that gives us the things like its longest orbit, for one, and the qualities of discipline, structure, boundaries, etc., that we know Capricorn and Saturn to be. In Aquarius, we come up with things like innovation and intellect, which is big. That's a forgotten characteristic of Saturn, especially when it's combined with the moon. Forward thinking, paradigm busting. So the structure that the Chaldeans created was Saturn bringing order and structure and stability to innovation, revolution, if you will go that far, and these innovative characteristics of Aquarius. It's almost a yin-yang kind of thing, of the traditional and the contemporary, the old and the new. I also found some analogies to the mythology of Saturn, Cronus in Greek mythology. So those characteristics of time, for example, agriculture, harshness, restriction, those were brought forward into these two signs. So Saturn, with the discipline, the structure, the responsibility, was applied to Capricorn's ambition and Aquarius's innovation. And I like that second part because as you think about revolutionary ideas, how many are flash in the pan revolutionary ideas? They come and go faster than they can get started. We are about to embark on the next 20 years of Pluto being in that revolutionary sign of Aquarius. And if we look back into history, we see that those revolutionary periods influenced by Pluto were lasting periods. They weren't flash in the pan. I think that's a perfect combination, outlining the contrast of these two, because we are shifting from the old to the new. Go back and look at the American Revolution in the 1770s, the French Revolution, out with the old, in with the new, both governed by Saturn. Even in that time, Uranus wasn't discovered until 1781. Both became revolutions of massive change that extended for long periods of time. So I hope that further answers the question. But the thing is, until you've sat in this seat and you've produced over 200 podcasts, and you've generated a lot of material, and you've got a lot of teaching going on, and it's all 100% free, go easy. Have some grace. Before you decide to be harsh like Saturn, bring some Venus into it and look at it as a balanced picture. For those of you who always are extending your support here, we greatly appreciate it. We love all of you, and we appreciate you listening. If you'd like to catch up on everything here, including a link to Robert, if you'd like to book with him to do a session, we've got Kristen's Discord channel, and whatever else, check out the show notes. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.